My brother was once again forced by our parents to kneel in the courtyard, because I failed my exam. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared at me. "Molly, why are you so stupid? Why don't you just die? If you die, our whole family will be free." I only have the intelligence of a 6-year-old, so I can't understand complicated words, but I understood die and free. Free, that means no more pain, right? I ran back to my room, and from my teddy bear piggy bank, I poured out the candies I had saved for a long time. Those were the sleeping pills Mom had hidden. I ran to my brother with a handful of candies, smiling innocently. "Brother, don't be angry, Molly will eat candy, and after eating candy, everyone will be free." The next second, I shoved a handful of candies into my mouth, swallowing them down forcefully. The crystal vase in the living room shattered on the floor. Dad's face turned liver-colored, and the hand pointing at the exam paper on the floor trembled violently. 0 marks. "Molly, you got 0 marks again." Mom covered her mouth beside him, suppressed sobs leaking from between her fingers, her shoulders shaking. The white paper was covered with red crosses, big and ugly. I shrank my neck in fear, hiding myself behind the door, peeking out through the crack. Dad kicked Caleb hard in the back of the knee. A dull thud. He knelt straight down on the cold floor tiles, next to the shards of glass. My heart also clenched into a ball with that dull sound. "Caleb, I told you to watch her at home. Is this how you watch her?" "Huh." Dad's roar made my ears ring. "You let her bring back a 0? Don't you want your own future anymore? You just have to drag the whole family down with you, don't you?" My brother hung his head, the broken hair on his forehead obscuring his face, and I couldn't see his expression, but I knew he was angry again. When my brother is angry, he ignores me, doesn't tell me stories, and doesn't play with me. He pretends I don't exist. I took a white rabbit candy out of my pocket. It was my favorite. I had been hiding it for a long time, and even the wrapper was almost softened by my squeezing. I couldn't bear to eat it. I tiptoed, carefully avoiding the glass shards on the floor, and walked to my brother. "Brother, have some candy." I brought the precious candy to his lips, the milky aroma sweet. "If you eat candy, you won't be sad." My brother suddenly raised his head, his red eyes seeming to burn with 2 balls of fire. He slapped my hand away. It was a heavy blow, and the back of my hand burned with pain. The candy flew out, drawing a white arc, and rolled into the dusty corner. "Get lost." I was so scared by him that I stumbled backwards, accidentally bumping into the chair behind me, and falling on my butt. My butt hurt. But I didn't dare to cry. If I cried, Mom and Dad would be even more annoyed, and my brother would hate me even more. Dad's anger turned to me as expected. "All you know how to do is cry. What else can you do besides cry? You idiot." Mom rushed over crying and hugged me, her arms trembling. "Why are you yelling at the child? Molly, she didn't do it on purpose." "I don't care if she did it on purpose or not. Caleb, you go kneel in the courtyard. If you don't reflect properly, don't even think about eating dinner today." My brother stood up without saying a word, his back as straight as a stick, and walked out of the living room step by step. In the courtyard it had started to rain sometime, the cold rain falling fine and dense. I watched my brother's back kneeling in the rain, and soon his clothes were wet, clinging tightly to his body. My heart felt so uncomfortable, like something was blocking it, making it hard to breathe. It's all my fault. If I could be a little smarter, my brother wouldn't have to be scolded and punished. I broke free from Mom's arms and chased after him. "Brother!" The cold rain hit my face, and I tugged at his wet hem. He shook me off violently, turned around, and looked at me with a look I had never seen before. A look that had something I didn't understand, like hatred. "Molly, why are you so stupid? Why don't you just die? If you die, our whole family will be free." Each word was like a small hammer, hitting my heart again and again. I was stunned. Free. Free, that means no more pain, right? I remembered the neighbor's puppy was very sick last time, and it was crying every day, very pitiful. Later it died, and the neighbor's sister hugged me and said that the puppy was free, and it didn't hurt anymore. As long as I die, my brother won't have to kneel, Dad won't be angry anymore, and Mom won't cry anymore. Everyone will be free. Then, that's a good thing. Looking at my brother's pained face in the rain, I suddenly thought of a wonderful idea. An idea that could make everyone happy. I ran back to my little room. The walls were covered with pictures my brother had drawn for me. There were rabbits eating carrots, and me wearing a princess dress. That was my castle, and I was the little princess inside. I stepped on the little stool with the missing corner, tiptoed, and shakily took my teddy bear piggy bank from the top of the wardrobe. The teddy bear was chubby and heavy. It was my most precious treasure. Inside there were not only the shiny coins my parents gave me, but also my hidden secret. My happy beans. Once, I was thirsty in the middle of the night, and wanted to go to the kitchen to get some water. When I passed the balcony, I heard Mom's suppressed crying. I quietly hid behind the door, only daring to poke out half my head. Mom was facing away from me, her shoulders twitching. She was on the phone. Doctor, is there really no other way? Her whole life. Can it only stop at 6 years old? I can't sleep all night, looking at her face. I'm going crazy. I couldn't understand those complicated words, but I understood 6 years old. That was me. I also understood crazy, like the way Dad looks when he's angry. I was scared and wanted to run, but my feet seemed to be nailed down. I saw Mom hang up the phone, pour out 2 white things from a small brown bottle, and swallow them down with cold water. After a while, she stopped crying. She leaned back in the chair, her breathing becoming very steady, as if she had fallen asleep. I understood. That wasn't medicine. Those were happy beans that could make people not unhappy. The next day, while Mom went out to buy groceries, I snuck into her room like a little mouse. I copied her, climbed onto the cabinet, and got that small brown bottle. My heart was pounding, more nervous than when I watched the big bad wolf catch the little sheep in cartoons. I poured all the beans inside into my teddy bear piggy bank. This was my secret and no one could be told. I thought, when Mom cries again one day, I'll give her one to eat. When Dad gets angry again, I'll give him one to eat too. Now my brother also needs it. I forcefully broke open the teddy bear's belly, and with a clatter, shiny coins and snow-white beans rolled all over the floor. I squatted down, pushed the cold coins aside, and carefully picked up my precious beans one by one. 1, 2, 3. So many. Enough. Enough to stop Dad from being angry, Mom from crying, and brother from being sad. I held a big handful of beans, as if holding the most precious treasure in the world, and ran back to the yard. The rain seemed to be heavier, hitting brother's hair and shoulders. He knelt there like a statue. I ran up to him, held the beans in front of his eyes, and tried to smile with my eyes curved like crescent moons. Brother, don't be angry. My voice was full of excited eagerness. Molly eats candy, and when Molly eats candy, everyone will be free. As soon as I finished speaking, without waiting for any reaction from him, I grabbed a large handful of beans and stuffed them all into my mouth. Bitter. So bitter. Not sweet at all. My little face instantly contorted. The taste was terrible, not candy at all. But I remembered brother's pained face in the rain, remembered his words telling me to die. If I die, I'll be free. If I eat this, I'll be free. I closed my eyes, stiffened my neck, and swallowed forcefully. The bitter beans scraped down my throat, dry and astringent. I gagged uncomfortably. Molly, what are you eating? Brother's dead eyes finally moved. He saw the remaining white pills in my hand, and his face instantly turned pale. He suddenly jumped up from the ground, like a crazed beast, and lunged at me. Spit it out. Molly, you fucking spit it out. The candy wasn't sweet at all. Bitter and astringent, like chewing on a mouthful of chalk dust. I swallowed hard, my small throat choked by the handfuls of beans, and tears welled up. But I didn't dare to spit it out. This was something good that could bring freedom to everyone. If I spat it out, it would be useless. The expression on brother's face, the one that said nothing in the world mattered, shattered the moment I swallowed the beans. The next second, a kind of fear I had never seen before crawled onto his face. Molly! He jumped up from the mud like a cat whose tail had been stepped on and rushed towards me like a madman. Spit it out. Spit it out quickly. His voice trembled violently, completely out of tune, sharp and unpleasant. He roughly pried open my mouth and stuck 2 fingers inside, digging and scooping. His fingernails scratched my lips, it hurt so much. A metallic taste instantly spread in my mouth, mixed with the bitterness of the beans, making it even more disgusting. I shook my head desperately, clamping my mouth shut, and forced the remaining pills, mixed with blood, down my throat. I can't spit it out. If I spit it out, brother will still have to kneel in the rain, still have to be sad. I was just kidding. Spit it out. Molly. He held me and shook my body like crazy. I was so dizzy from the shaking. My stomach churned, and the bitter liquid I had just swallowed surged to my throat. Everything in front of me began to spin. Brother's anxious and despairing face swayed before my eyes, clear one moment, blurry the next. I tried to smile at him, wanting to tell him that I was okay, that I had succeeded. Bro, don't cry. My tongue seemed to have grown bigger, out of control, and the words I spoke were mumbled. Molly, doesn't hurt anymore. Really, it doesn't hurt at all. My body suddenly became so light, so soft, like lying on clouds. Finally, brother's face, smeared with rain and tears, shattered into many pieces before my eyes with a pop. My world went black. I seemed to have a very long dream. In the dream, I had no wings, but I flew so high, so high. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself floating in midair in the yard. I looked down and saw everything below. Brother was holding my limp body, kneeling rigidly in the muddy water. He raised his head and let out a howl that didn't sound human, like a wild dog whose backbone had been broken. The sound pierced through the rain, and through my transparent body. The living room door was thrown open. Dad and Mom rushed out. When they saw me, motionless in brother's arms, the whole yard seemed to be paused. Mom's eyes widened as big as copper bells, and the color drained from her face at a visible speed. Her lips trembled, wanting to say something, but she couldn't utter a single word. The next second, her body softened and she fell straight backward. Wife! Dad frantically caught Mom. He looked at me, then stared at brother, his whole body shaking. What? What happened? Caleb, what's wrong with Molly? Brother didn't answer. He just held me, using his face, which was covered in mud and water, to rub my cold cheeks over and over again. Molly, wake up. I was wrong. I was really wrong. The rain fell harder and harder, as if to wash him away. I floated in the air, feeling a little anxious. I wanted to tell them that I was here, that I hadn't disappeared. I'm free, you should be free too. But why do you look 100 times more painful than before? The siren of an ambulance cut through the rainy night. I followed the blinding light and floated to the hospital. The hallway was deathly silent. Only the red light above the operating room door, like an ominous eye, stared fixedly at everyone. Dad supported the limp Mom, sitting on a bench, his head buried in his hands, his shoulders trembling violently. Brother stood in front of the operating room door, like a weathered stone statue. His clothes were soaked through, clinging to his body, and the water droplets on his hair dripped down his cheeks, indistinguishable from rain or tears. His eyes stared unblinkingly at the closed door. Time passed second by second, each second as long as a century. Finally, the door opened. A doctor in a white coat walked out, wearily taking off his mask. Dad and brother immediately rushed up. Doctor, how is my daughter? Doctor, save her. Please save her. The doctor's gaze swept across their anxious faces, and finally, he shook his head heavily. We did everything we could. The patient was brought in too late, the dosage was too large, she already. The words were like a thunderclap, striking everyone's heads. Mom let out a shrill scream, broke free from Dad's embrace, and rushed toward the doctor. You're lying. You're lying. My Molly won't die. She's only 8 years old. Dad hugged the emotionally distraught Mom tightly, tears flowing silently. As for brother, he stood there blankly, as if he hadn't understood the doctor's words. A few seconds later, he suddenly went crazy, grabbing the doctor's collar. Say that again. What do you mean did your best? You're doctors. You have to save her. His strength was astonishing, and the doctor was almost unable to breathe from being strangled. If you can't save her, I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you. 2 security guards rushed over and pulled him away together. He was pinned against the wall, still struggling and roaring frantically. Let me go. I have to save Molly. Molly. His roar echoed in the empty corridor, filled with despair and madness. I floated over, watching his face turn red from lack of oxygen, watching the blood vessels burst in his eyes. I wanted to tell him, brother, don't do this. Molly doesn't hurt anymore. But he couldn't hear my voice anymore. Finally, as if he had exhausted all his strength, he slid down the wall and sat on the ground. He hugged his head and let out a beast-like sob. It's me. I killed her. I'm the one who deserves to die. The lights in the corridor were a ghastly white, illuminating his huddled body, like a piece of discarded trash. My funeral was simple. The house wasn't decorated with a mourning hall, because Mom said she didn't believe I was dead. She just fell asleep and would wake up soon. My room was clean, spotless, as if I had just gone to school and would be back soon. Only a black and white photo of me hung on the wall in the living room. In the photo, I was wearing a pink princess dress, grinning foolishly, revealing my 2 little canine teeth. Brother knelt in front of the photo. He hadn't said a word or eaten a bite of food for 3 days. He just knelt there rigidly, his back like a javelin. Dad walked over and placed a bowl of porridge in front of him. Get up and eat something. Dad's voice was terribly hoarse, as if it had been rubbed with sandpaper. Brother didn't move, his eyes staring blankly at my photo. I told you to get up. Dad suddenly exploded, kicking over the bowl of porridge. The scalding porridge spilled on Brother's hand, and his hand immediately turned red. But he didn't seem to feel any pain, still motionless. Who are you kneeling here for? Do you think that Molly? Do you think she can come back to life like this? Dad roared, but tears fell first. You killed your sister. Are you only satisfied when you completely destroy this family? Mom rushed out of the room. She was like a madwoman, grabbing Dad's arm and hitting and biting him. Shut up. Don't you say that about Caleb. Molly isn't dead. She isn't dead. Get a grip. Dad grabbed Mom's shoulders and shook her violently. She's already dead. Forced to death by your son's words. No. Mom screamed, covering her ears. It's not Caleb's fault. It's not. The living room was a mess. Dad's roar, Mom's screams, and Brother's deathly silence. I floated among them, watching this family fall apart because of my departure. My heart, if I still had a heart, must be aching to pieces. Brother finally moved. He raised his hand and slapped himself hard across the face. A crisp smack sound. All the sounds stopped. Mom and Dad were stunned. Brother didn't seem to feel anything, and slapped himself again. He went at it one after another, with all his strength, hitting both sides of his face. Soon, his face was red and swollen, and blood seeped from the corners of his mouth. He muttered to himself. I killed Molly. I deserve to die. I'm the idiot. I floated in front of him, wanting to hug him, to tell him it wasn't his fault. But my hand once again passed right through his body. He shivered for no reason because of my approach. I shouted anxiously, Brother, don't cry. Molly doesn't blame you. Really doesn't blame you. But no one could hear. He just raised his bloodshot eyes, looked desperately at my photo, and then slammed his head heavily on the cold floor. A thud sounded, as if he wanted to shatter his soul along with it. From that day on, Brother locked himself in my room. That room, which used to be covered with the paintings he had drawn for me and filled with my laughter, was now a tomb. He held my teddy bear in his arms, which he bought for me last year for my birthday with the allowance he had saved for a long time. He sat alone in the empty room, not speaking, not turning on the lights. He just sat there, from day to night. Mom would put food at the door every day. Caleb, come out and eat something. Mom is begging you. If you keep going like this, your body will collapse. Do you want Mom to lose you too? There was no response from inside the door. The next day, the food was still there, untouched, completely cold. Dad tried to open the door with a spare key, but the door was locked from the inside. He roared angrily outside the door. Caleb, get out here. You coward. Do you think things will pass if you hide inside and act like a tortoise? I'm telling you, you'll never get over it in this lifetime. You owe Molly, you'll never be able to repay it in this lifetime. Dad's words were like knives, stabbing into Brother's heart, and also stabbing into my heart. I knew that Dad didn't really hate Brother. He was just in too much pain. So much pain that he could only use this way to vent. One night, I saw Brother take out a small plastic bag from under my pillow. Inside were a few white pills. Those were the ones he had pried out of my mouth that day, which were later taken away by the police as evidence, and then returned. My candies. He poured those candies into his palm and looked at them quietly. His eyes were terrifyingly empty. My body, my ethereal soul, tensed up instantly. No, brother. No. I rushed towards him like crazy, trying to knock the pills out of his hand. But I passed through his body again and again, unable to do anything. I could only watch helplessly as he slowly reached his hand towards his mouth. Right then a loud bang resonated. Dad had split open the door with an axe. Amidst the flying splinters, Dad rushed in, knocking the medicine out of older brother's hand. The few white pills rolled across the carpet, like shattered teardrops. You want to die too? Dad's chest rose and fell violently, his eyes bloodshot red, like a lion cornered in desperation. Do you want your mom and me to come and clean up after the two of you? Older brother seemed to have been drained of all strength, collapsing to the ground. He finally cried. No longer silent tears, but a wail like a child, crying his heart out. Dad, I can't take it anymore. He clutched at his hair, roaring in agony. Every time I close my eyes, I see Molly. I see her telling me, brother, eat the candy, and everyone will be free. The way she looked. I can't forget it. I can't forget it for the rest of my life. Dad looked at him, the anger in his eyes slowly fading, leaving only endless sorrow and fatigue. He didn't help him up, nor did he comfort him. He just stood there, saying in an almost cruelly calm tone, if you can't forget it, then remember it. Caleb, this is your punishment. You will carry it for the rest of your life. Mom began to sort out my belongings. She folded my clothes one by one, placing them in the box. She wiped my toys one by one, arranging them on the shelf. She didn't cry nor did she speak, like a robot programmed to do so. While cleaning my little school bag, she found the zero-score test paper. She held the test paper, looking at it for a long time. Then, she pulled out a drawing from behind the test paper. It was drawn by me. In the drawing, there was Dad, there was Mom, there was me. I also drew older brother in a Superman suit, and above his head, I drew a huge golden glittering sun. Under the drawing, I wrote in wobbly letters, Brother, my hero. Mom stared at the drawing, a hint of emotion finally flickering in her empty eyes. The next second, she collapsed to the ground as if all the bones in her body had been removed. The grief she had suppressed for so long, at this moment, completely erupted like a flash flood. She let out a heart-wrenching cry, that sound containing the pain of losing her daughter, the resentment towards her husband, the unbearable sorrow for her son, and the endless despair towards fate. Holding the drawing, she stumbled into older brother's room. At that time, older brother had starved himself to the point of being emaciated, so thin that he was just skin and bones. Mom slammed the drawing hard against his face. Look at this. Her voice was shrill and piercing. Look at this. This is the sister you drove to her death. She regarded you as her hero. What did you do to her? Older brother picked up the light drawing. When he saw the words my hero, he froze completely. The expression on his face changed from numbness to shock, to a kind of complete self-loathing deeper than despair. It turned out that the burden he saw as unbearable had always regarded him as her whole world's son. He had destroyed his own son with his own hands. The paper in his hand felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds, pressing down on him until he couldn't breathe. He suddenly stood up and rushed out of the house like a madman, disappearing into the endless night. I followed behind him, watching him run wildly on the empty street. He wanted to shake me off. Shake off the silly younger sister who always smiled at him and said, "Brother is my hero." But he didn't know that the more he ran, the more that love and guilt gnawed at every inch of his flesh and blood like maggots on a bone. He ran to a river and stopped. He looked at the dark river, the reflection of his disheveled face in the water. He suddenly smiled, a smile that was more painful than crying. Hero. He muttered to himself. I'm not a hero. I'm a murderer. After speaking, he walked step by step towards the icy cold water. The river was very cold. The bone-chilling cold instantly enveloped him. I was anxious and paced back and forth on the shore. I shouted desperately, but it was no use. Just as the river was about to reach his chest, a beam of blinding headlights shone over. A police car stopped by the road. 2 policemen rushed out, jumped into the river, and dragged him back to the shore. He was taken to the police station. He was soaking wet, like a drowned rat, sitting in the interrogation room, shivering nonstop. A kind-looking policewoman poured him a cup of hot water. "Child, what's bothering you so much that you have to seek death?" Older brother held the cup of hot water, lowered his head and said nothing. The policewoman sighed. "Is it because of your sister's matter? We've heard about your family situation and we are very sorry too." Older brother's body shook violently. He raised his head. The first time focus appeared in his bloodshot eyes. "I want to confess." His voice was dry and hoarse. "I killed my sister." The policewoman was stunned. "Child, don't talk nonsense. The coroner's report on your sister's death was an accident." "It wasn't an accident." Older brother excitedly interrupted her. "It was me. It was me who made her go to her death. She listened to me so much. She believed everything I said. It was me who pushed her towards death." He told everything that happened that day, word by word. Every detail, every hurtful word, was like slowly slicing himself apart. After he finished speaking, he was completely exhausted. "Police officer, please arrest me. Sentence me to death. I deserve to die." The interrogation room was silent. The policewoman looked at him, her eyes filled with sympathy. "Child, from a legal point of view, you have not committed a crime. What you said was hurtful, and it was the fuse for the tragedy, but you had no subjective intention to kill, nor did you commit any act of murder. The law cannot punish you." When older brother heard these words, the light in his eyes instantly went out. He laughed softly, as if he had heard a great joke. "Can't punish. So, I caused a person to die, but I can get away with it? What the hell is this?" He stood up abruptly, overturning the table. "You won't judge me, I'll judge myself." Like a wild beast out of control, he slammed himself against the wall. The police rushed forward and pinned him down. He was pressed hard to the ground, still struggling and roaring. The female police officer squatted down, looked at his anguished face, and said softly, "Child, the law is sometimes pale. The real judgment is in people's hearts. You've already sentenced yourself to life imprisonment, haven't you? Many years have passed. Like a lonely wandering spirit, I have been following my brother. Mom and Dad's hair has turned white. They no longer argue, but live together in silence, guarding that empty house, guarding the memories of me. My brother has grown up. He was admitted to the best medical university and became a pediatrician. He is no longer the sunny and cheerful boy he once was. He has become taciturn, and his face no longer holds a smile. He dedicates all his time to work. At the hospital, he is the most dedicated doctor. He is available for any emergency, any surgery. I watch him, time and time again, snatching sick children from the hands of death. He performs surgery on a little girl who accidentally swallowed a button battery. He sets the bones of a little boy who fell from a high building. He searches everywhere for bone marrow matches for a child with leukemia. Each time he saves a child, when he sees the parents' faces of overjoyed tears, a look I don't understand flashes across his face. It's not happiness, and it's not relief. It's more like atonement. The more children he saves, the deeper the pain in his eyes. I know that every time he saves a child, he remembers me. He wants to make up for it, to repay it, in this way. But what he owes me is a life. How can it ever be repaid? One night, an unconscious little girl was brought into the emergency room. She had secretly eaten her mother's blood pressure medication. When my brother saw the little girl's face, he froze completely. That girl had eyes exactly like mine. Big and round, like two black grapes. The girl's mother knelt on the ground, begging him and crying. "Doctor, please save my daughter. She's only 7 years old. 7 years old. If I were still alive, I would be that old too." My brother's face turned deathly pale in an instant. He seemed nailed to the spot, unable to move. The surrounding nurses called him anxiously. "Dr. Caleb. Dr. Caleb." He seemed not to hear. He must have heard my words from back then again. "Brother, if everyone eats candy, everyone will be free." "Dr. Caleb." A nurse pushed him hard. He suddenly came back to his senses, and the daze and pain in his eyes were instantly replaced by professionalism and calmness. "Prepare for gastric lavage. Get the cardiac monitor ready. Have adrenaline on standby. He issued instructions in an orderly manner, and his hands performed the rescue quickly and accurately. At that moment, he was no longer the Caleb overwhelmed by guilt. He was a doctor, a hero racing against death. The rescue lasted for 3 whole hours. When the heart rate curve on the monitor finally stabilized, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. My brother took off his sweat-soaked gloves, leaned against the wall, his body trembling slightly. He succeeded. Once again he had conquered death. He had pulled the little girl with my eyes back from the brink of death. The little girl's parents thanked him profusely, holding him and sobbing uncontrollably. He just watched in silence, saying nothing. After everyone had left, he went to the hospital rooftop alone. The night wind was cold, blowing his white coat. He took something out of his pocket. It was a white rabbit milk candy. He had been carrying it with him all these years. He unwrapped the candy and put the white candy in his mouth. The milky flavor spread through his mouth. He closed his eyes, and tears flowed silently down his cheeks. Those were not tears of pain, nor were they tears of regret. It was a kind of relief I had never seen on his face before. He seemed to use all his strength to softly say to the empty night sky, "Molly, I'm sorry." Then he said, "Molly, thank you." I floated in front of him, watching his tear-stained face. I suddenly understood. He wasn't apologizing to me. He was reconciling with his past self. He spent more than a decade saving countless Mollys. He finally forgave the boy who had once told his sister, "Go die." At this moment, the shackles that bound him finally loosened, and the reluctance and obsession that bound me also began to become transparent. I felt my body getting lighter and lighter. The world around me began to blur. The hospital rooftop, the city lights, all turned into a soft halo. I took one last look at my brother. He wiped away his tears and a long-lost, faint smile appeared on his face. Although it was very shallow, it was like a light, illuminating the deep darkness behind him. My hero has finally found his son again. It's time for me to go too. I floated towards that warm light. Before disappearing completely, I used my last strength to whisper in his ear, "Brother, it doesn't hurt anymore." This time, I freed myself. Goodbye, brother. Goodbye, my hero.